Speak your desire, Regina!
Olaedo, you will never marry in peace today. Not when I'm still alive.
As I lock this chain, let her husband see her face as a beast.
It is done.
The elders say that a beautiful flower does not choose the soil it grows upon, but a wicked hand can poison the entire garden out of spite. Look at the laughter of two sisters harvesting cocoyam in the morning sun. Look at two little girls running through the red dust, their hearts free from the weight of the world. It was a time of pure innocence, a time when love was a thick wall protecting a family from the winds of the earth. But listen to me carefully, the heart of a human being is a deep forest, and you can never tell when a sister will look at her own blood and see an enemy. This is the story of Olaedo. A popular parable says that when two trees grow close together, they must learn to share the nutrients of the earth, or one will wither so that the other can touch the sky. In the peaceful village of Umuoka, where the palm trees whisper to the wind, there lived two sisters, Adana and Regina. Adana was the older one, a woman whose smile could disarm a warrior and whose hands brought life to any crop she planted. Regina was her younger sister, sharp-tongued, proud, and ambitious. They had lost their parents early in life, so they clung to each other like a rapper ties a baby to a mother's back. When they got married to two brothers from the same kindred, the village rejoiced, saying their bond was locked by the ancestors themselves. As the years rolled by, the wombs of both sisters opened. Adana gave birth to a daughter named Olaedo, a child whose eyes held the clarity of the morning dew. A year later, Regina gave birth to Sophia, a beautiful girl with skin as smooth as polished clay. Oh, the love was sweet in those early days. If you visited the compound after the evening market, you would find Adana and Regina sitting by the fire, sharing a single bowl of pounded yam while little Olaedo and Sophia played with dolls made of corn husks. If Olaedo cried, Regina would carry her and offer her breast. If Sophia fell in the mud, Adana was the first to wash her clean. They grew up like twins born from the same womb. Olaedo loved Sophia with a loyalty that had no boundary, and Sophia looked at Olaedo as her protector. But you see, the world is a market where everyone displays their goods, but the buyers do not look at every shop with the same eyes. As the girls blossomed into young maidens, the red dust of Umuoka began to carry a new whisper. Olaedo grew into a masterpiece of grace. Her beauty was not the type that screams for attention, it was the type that commands respect. She was respectful, her voice was like the sound of a distant flute, and her character was sweeter than honey. Sophia, on the other hand, was beautiful but carried a loud, restless spirit, always looking at her reflection in the water and boasting about her grace. The turning point came during the New Yam festival. The young maidens of the village were asked to dance before the elders and the visitors from neighboring towns. Olaedo danced with a modesty that captured the hearts of everyone present. The very next morning, the heavy iron gate of the compound felt the knock of strangers. A prominent wealthy family from the neighboring village had come, carrying heavy kegs of palm wine and cola nuts. Regina's heart leaped with joy. She dressed Sophia in her finest lace, thinking the suitors had come for her daughter. She sat in the courtyard, her head held high like a queen. But when the spokesmen of the visitors opened their mouths, the ground crumbled beneath Regina's feet. "We have seen a flower in this compound," the chief spokesman said, clearing his throat. "A flower whose character is praised even by the birds of the air. We have come to ask for the hand of Olaedo, the daughter of Adana." The smile on Regina's face froze like water in the harmattan. She looked at her sister Adana, who was shedding tears of joy, and then she looked at Sophia, who was standing in the corner, ignored and forgotten. The visitors did not even cast a glance toward Sophia. It was a silent disaster for Regina's pride. That night, the laughter in the compound died a sudden death. While Adana was singing praises to the gods in her hut, Regina sat in the dark, her eyes staring at the ceiling. A dangerous proverb started to form in her mind: when a bird flies too high, its shadow makes the ones on the ground look like ants. Regina looked at her sleeping daughter, Sophia, and a cold, heavy bitterness settled into her bones. She realized that as long as Adana and Olaedo were alive, her own daughter would always be a shadow walking behind a shining sun. The seeds of the ultimate betrayal had just been planted in the dark. The elders say that the ground we humiliate an innocent person upon will one day be the same ground that refuses to bury us when we die. Look at the sisterly embrace, look at the hand that pours water into the drinking cup, while the other hand hides the venom of a viper. It was a disaster of the soul, a time when a midnight shadow crept into a peaceful bedroom, and a mother's life was stolen before she could even say goodbye to her only child. But listen to me carefully, a padlock can lock a wooden door, it can even lock an iron gate, but no juju on earth is strong enough to lock the blood of the innocent from crying out to the heavens. The path of wickedness does not start with a sudden blow, it starts with the poison of whispers and the quiet rot of the heart. For 3 weeks after the suitors came for Olaedo, Regina became a ghost walking in the bright afternoon sun. She stopped eating her sister's food. Every time she heard Adana singing joyfully while preparing Olaedo's bridal trunk, Regina felt as if hot charcoal was being poured directly onto her chest. One evening, Regina sat Sophia down behind the hut, away from the prying eyes of the compound. She looked deep into her daughter's eyes and began to plant the first seeds of malice. "Sophia, my daughter," Regina whispered, her voice low and sharp like a razor blade. "Can you not see that your eyes are blind? Look at how your cousin Olaedo walks around the village like a golden hen. The suitors are lining up at her door while you sit here like a broken pot that nobody wants to fetch water with. If you do not wake up, you will become the slave who carries the basket at her wedding, and your future will rot in this compound." Sophia, whose heart was still soft and full of sisterly love, shook her head. "But Mama, Olaedo is my sister. We played in the same dirt. When she is blessed, am I not also blessed? Her joy is my joy." Regina slapped her thigh in frustration, her eyes flashing with a wicked fire. "You are a foolish child. A proverb says that when a rain starts to beat a man, his brother does not get wet on his behalf. If Olaedo crosses that threshold as a wealthy wife, she will look down on you from her high mansion. I will not fold my arms and watch my own womb be disgraced." From that night, Regina's feet took a different path. She waited until the middle of the night when the moon was covered by dark clouds and the village was dead silent. She tied her wrapper tight and took the lonely, overgrown path that led to the evil forest of Dibia. The air at the shrine of the chief priest was cold, smelling of dried blood, rusted iron, and old secrets. The native doctor, a man with one eye and teeth as black as charcoal, laughed a hollow laugh when Regina stepped into the light of his small fire. "The bird that flies at midnight does not seek peace," the native doctor hissed, shaking a calabash filled with cowries. "Regina, daughter of Umuoka, what is the weight that burdens your soul?" Regina knelt in the dirt, her heart hardened like stone. "I want my sister Adana gone. I want her mouth silenced forever, and I want her daughter Olaedo's destiny buried so deep that no suitor will ever see her beauty again." The native doctor smiled a terrifying smile. He reached into a dark corner and pulled out 2 things, a small clay vial containing a black, tasteless poison, and a heavy, rusted iron padlock wrapped in a red cloth stained with old blood. "The poison will take her breath within 3 days, and no physician will find the cause," the native doctor instructed, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "But you must know that the spirit of a murdered sister is a restless wind. Immediately after she draws her last breath, before her body turns cold, you must take this padlock. Call her name 3 times into the iron keyhole, and snap it shut. As long as this lock remains closed, her spirit will be bound in chains, bleeding and silent, unable to protect her daughter or speak the truth to the living. But be careful, if that key ever turns, the floodgates of judgment will burst open." Regina snatched the items, a dark satisfaction filling her chest. She will never wake up. The next morning, the sky was a strange shade of grey, as if the heavens knew a disaster was brewing. Adana was busy in the kitchen, boiling yams for the family breakfast, humming a sweet song of thanksgiving. Regina walked in, a fake, loving smile plastered across her face. She carried a bowl of fresh palm wine she claimed to have bought from the palm tapper especially for her older sister. "My sister," Regina said smoothly, handing the cup to Adana. "You have labored so hard for our daughters. Drink this wine and refresh your throat. May your days be long to see your grandchildren." Adana, whose heart was pure and completely devoid of suspicion, smiled warmly. "Thank you, my sister. God bless your good heart." She raised the cup to her lips and drank every drop, not knowing that she was swallowing her own funeral. By the second day, a strange sickness struck Adana. She began to cough blood, her body shivering violently under the heavy blankets. Olaedo wailed, holding her mother's hands, crying out to the village elders for help, but no medicine could touch the dark juju inside her veins. Sophia stood at the doorway, her heart heavy with grief, wondering why her beautiful aunt was suddenly fading away. On the third night, just as the first cock crowed, Adana took one long, painful breath, looked at her weeping daughter Olaedo, and her eyes went blank. She was dead. While the household was thrown into a panic and Olaedo ran out into the compound screaming for the neighbors, Regina slipped quietly into the dark room. The body of Adana was still warm. Regina's hand shook, but her heart was full of steel. She pulled out the rusted padlock from her wrapper. She leaned close to her dead sister's ear and whispered into the cold metal, "Adana. Adana. Adana. Your journey is ended." With a heavy, sharp click, Regina snapped the padlock shut. Deep in the spiritual realm, a horrific scream echoed as the spirit of Adana was instantly wrapped in chains of blood, locked away in total darkness. Regina hid the lock deep inside her personal wooden chest, locking it with her own secret key. The mother was dead, the spirit was bound, and the stage was set for the destruction of the innocent niece. The elders say that a proverb does not lie when it says that a constant drop of water can wear away the hardest stone. Look at the tears of an orphan standing in her bridal dress, look at the confusion of the guests as the groom runs away into the forest like a man chased by a madness. It was a disaster of the soul, a time when fear became a weapon, and the poison of a mother's tongue finally broke the mind of her own daughter. But listen to me carefully, when a shadow stretches itself to look like a giant, it forgets that the moment the sun reaches the center of the sky, it will shrink back into nothing. The tragedy did not explode in one day, it crawled into the compound like a snake through the green grass. After the burial of Adana, the dark cloud over Olaedo's head became visible to the spiritual eyes of the village. The wealthy family that had brought palm wine for her hand returned to finalize the marriage rites. The compound was decorated, the drums were beating, and Olaedo was dressed in her mother's finest coral beads, her heart finding a little joy after so much mourning. But as Olaedo stepped out to carry the cup of wine to her groom, the atmosphere turned into a freezing wind. The groom took the cup, but the moment his eyes met Olaedo's face, he dropped the wood on the floor, letting out a blood-curdling scream. To his eyes, her beautiful face had vanished, replaced by the terrifying, bleeding visage of a native masquerade. He tumbled backward, knocking over the elders, and ran out of the compound like a man possessed by 7 demons. The wedding collapsed into pure chaos. Within 2 years, 5 more suitors came for Olaedo. Every single time, the disaster repeated itself. One suitor collapsed with a high fever at the gate, another lost his mind and started eating sand, a third woke up blind on the morning of the wine carrying. The village began to talk in hushed tones. The elders shook their heads, whispering, "Adana's daughter is a witch. She has a spiritual husband that is destroying every man who dares to touch her." Sophia watched all of this happen. At first, she wept for her cousin. She would hold Olaedo in the night while Olaedo cried, saying, "My hands are clean, Sophia. I do not know what I did to the gods." But as the 6th wedding failed in the exact same horrifying way, Sophia's heart began to tremble with a heavy, cold fear. She looked at Olaedo and wondered, is it true? Is my cousin really a witch? Regina saw that her daughter's mind was shaking, and like a hawk watching a chick, she chose that exact moment to strike again. She called Sophia into her room at night, the room smelling of old smoke and hidden secrets. She locked the wooden door and pulled Sophia close, her eyes wide with a fake, terrified look. "Sophia, my daughter," Regina hissed, her voice dropping into a dangerous whisper. "Are your eyes still sleeping? How many men must run mad before you believe what the village is saying? Look at Olaedo. Her mother is dead, and now she has sold her womb to the dark spirits. The juju she is carrying is heavy. Sophia shook her head, tears spilling from her eyes. Mama, no. Olaedo is gentle. She prays every day by Auntie Adana's grave. Foolish girl. Regina shouted softly, grabbing Sophia's shoulders and shaking her hard. A proverb says that a calm dog wears a fake skin to hide the teeth that bite. She is using that fake pity to draw you close. Don't you see that since her wedding started failing, no suitor has even looked at your face either? Her curse is spreading like leprosy. If you keep treating her like a sister, her spiritual husband will take your breath too. You will die an old maid in this compound while she feeds on your youth. The words hit Sophia like a physical blow. She looked back at the image of the first groom screaming in horror. She thought of the 6 failed weddings. The fear in her chest turned into a solid, heavy stone. She believed her mother completely. The sisterly love she had carried for years shriveled up and died, replaced by a deep, defensive hatred. Mama, Sophia whispered, her voice turning cold and sharp. What must I do? I don't want her curse to touch my life. Regina smiled a dark, triumphant smile in the shadows. You must put her in her place. An orphan with a cursed head must not sit on the same stool as a pure daughter. From today, she is no longer your sister. She is the servant of this house. The next morning, the sun rose on a completely different compound. Olaedo woke up early, her eyes swollen from another night of weeping. She walked to the kitchen to fetch a small pot to boil water for her aunt, just as she always did. But before her hand could touch the clay pot, a heavy foot kicked it out of her reach, shattering it into pieces. Olaedo looked up in shock. Standing over her was Sophia. Sophia's face was no longer soft. Her eyes were full of a biting, arrogant cruelty. She held a large wooden broom in her hand and glared down at her cousin as if she were a piece of rotten meat. Who told you to touch the pots of this house, you witch? Sophia shouted, her voice echoing across the yard so the neighbors could hear. You have destroyed 6 men, and now you want to put your evil fingers into our food so you can kill my mother too. Olaedo fell to her knees, her heart breaking into fresh pieces. Sophia? It's me, Olaedo. Your sister. Why are you speaking to me like this? Shut your filthy mouth. Sophia hissed, stepping forward and throwing a heavy empty basin at Olaedo's feet. Take this basin and march down to the river right now. You will fetch water until the big drum in the backyard is full. If I see your face in this kitchen before noon, I will show you that the forest does not tolerate a useless tree. Move! Regina sat on her wooden stool by the doorway, sipping her hot herbs, watching with a cold satisfaction as her daughter completely took over her own wicked nature. Olaedo picked up the basin, her body shaking with heavy sobs, and walked out of the gate under the mocking eyes of the village. The transformation was complete. The cousin who used to love her had now become her harshest slave master. A girl who carries a curse that melts the wedding rings of men is not a human being, she is a moving graveyard. Her presence alone will block the rain from falling on our crops. Olaedo heard every single word. The tears blinded her eyes, causing her to stumble against a stone. The heavy firewood fell from her head, scattering into the dirt. Instead of helping the weeping orphan, the women burst into cruel, mocking laughter. Olaedo knelt in the dust, her heart bleeding, picking up the wood piece by piece while the insults tore at her soul. She looked toward her mother's grave in the distance and whispered, "Mama, where are you? Why is your spirit silent while they tread upon your only child?" But back at the compound, the atmosphere was completely different. The air was thick with the scent of rich agusi soup and fried meat. Regina had just returned from the city markets with bags filled with expensive coral beads and the highest quality Ankara fabric for the upcoming wedding of her daughter, Sophia. A very wealthy man from a royal family had just paid the initial bride price for Sophia, and Regina was determined to make the wedding the grandest spectacle Umuoka had ever seen. She wanted to use her daughter's glory to finally bury the memory of Adana and humiliate Olaedo forever. Sophia was sitting on a cushioned stool in the veranda, admiring her new gold-plated wristwatches, but as she watched Olaedo drag her bruised feet through the compound gate with the fallen firewood, a small pang of guilt touched her heart. She remembered how Olaedo used to share her food with her when they were little girls. "Mama," Sophia said smoothly, her voice low as she looked at her mother. "Look at Olaedo. She has not eaten since yesterday, and she fetched 10 basins of water today. Don't you think we should give her even a small plate of yam? The village people are already talking too much about how we treat her." Regina stopped unpacking the lace fabrics, her face twisting into a furious glare. She marched over to Sophia and grabbed her wrist tightly. "You talk like a child whose brain is filled with water," Regina hissed, her voice vibrating with malice. "A proverb says that you do not invite a thief to watch over your barn of yams. Have you forgotten what happened to her 6 weddings? The girl is a living curse, Sophia. If I don't keep her hands busy with heavy labor, her evil spirit will have the time to look at your marriage and destroy it. I am doing all this to protect your head." Sophia looked down at the gold watches on her wrist, her fear rising again to swallow her pity. "But Mama, are you sure my own wedding will be safe? My heart is pacing fast." Regina let out a proud, hollow laugh, patting her wrapper where her secret key was hidden. "Your wedding is secured by the elders and the ancestors themselves. I have locked the mouth of any spirit that wants to fight you. Look at these beautiful Ankara dresses I bought for the village maidens. They will dance behind you like angels. On that day, you will step out onto the stage, holding the glass of palm wine high, and the entire world will see that you are the queen of this family while the daughter of Adana rots in the kitchen." Sophia looked at the bright Ankara fabrics, and a cold, arrogant pride began to push away her remaining fear. She stood up, walked over to where Olaedo was trying to stack the firewood, and kicked the logs apart with her expensive shoe. "Listen to me, servant," Sophia commanded, her voice sharp and devoid of any sisterly warmth. "The decorators and the canopy men are arriving tomorrow morning. You will wake up before the moon goes down to sweep the entire square. If I see a single leaf on the ground when my in-laws arrive, I will make sure you sleep in the goat pen. Do you understand me?" Olaedo did not look up. She only nodded her head slowly, her tears wetting the dry wood. "Yes, Sophia," she whispered. The stage was fully set. The canopies were ready to be raised, the village gossips were waiting for a show, and Regina believed she had successfully chained the truth in the dark. They did not know that the measuring cup of their wickedness was finally full, and the ancestors were already preparing the stage for an abomination that would shake the village to its very roots. The elders say that you can cover a smoking fire with a heavy cloth, but you can never hide the smoke from the eyes of the sky. Look at the pride of a wicked mother as she sits under the golden canopy. Look at her daughter Sophia, stepping onto the stage with her hips swaying to the rhythm of the royal drums. It was a day of grand celebration, a time when the wealthy in-laws filled the yard with laughter and bags of money, believing they were taking home a pure flower. But listen to me carefully, the earth is an ancient judge that never sleeps, and when a compound is stained with the blood of a sister, the ground itself will refuse to let the wicked dance in peace. The morning of Sophia's traditional wedding arrived with a glory that turned Regina's heart into a mountain of pride. The preparation was a disaster of heavy spending. The entire compound was covered in massive, expensive white and gold canopies that stretched from the gate to the main building. The decorators had lined the walkways with fresh palm fronds and beautiful flowers, creating a stage fit for a king's daughter. In the corner, the musicians were already tuning their instruments, the heavy wooden gongs sending vibrations through the red dust of Umuoka. All the village maidens had arrived, looking like a grand parade of angels in their matching Ankara uniforms. They laughed and giggled, adjusting their head ties, preparing to escort Sophia onto the marriage stage. And where was Olaedo? Regina had locked the orphan inside the smoky back kitchen, forcing her to wash hundreds of heavy iron pots, her hands covered in soot, tears silently tracing lines down her dusty face. Regina did not want the cursed niece to cast her eyes on her daughter's rich husband. By noon, the compound was completely packed. Prominent chiefs from neighboring villages arrived in expensive fabrics, sitting side by side with the wealthy groom's family, who had brought 10 cars filled with royal gifts, crates of expensive drinks, and heavy bags of money for the bride price. Regina sat in the front row, wearing her finest lace, her head held so high that her neck ached. She looked at the crowd and whispered to herself, "Adana, wherever your soul is rotting, look at my daughter today. I have taken your place, and your daughter is a slave in my kitchen while mine is a queen." The music suddenly exploded into a frantic, joyful rhythm. The master of ceremonies shouted into the microphone, "Umuoka, behold your bride." The anchor-clad maidens formed a beautiful double line, their bodies moving in perfect harmony as they danced out of the room. In the middle of the circle stood Sophia, looking like a royal masterpiece. Her neck was covered in heavy royal coral beads, her skin was glowing with expensive oils, and her hands held a beautifully carved wooden cup filled to the brim with fresh, foaming palm wine. She stepped onto the stage, her feet moving gracefully to the thumping of the bass drum. The groom stood up from his royal chair, his face full of joy, his hands already filled with money to spray on his new wife. The crowd cheered, the women clapped, and the peak of the celebration had arrived. But little did they know that before the wedding drums would fall silent, a secret buried for many years would rise to the surface, a secret powerful enough to expose hidden truths, shatter Regina's pride, and shake the entire village of Umuoka. Would Sophia's wedding end in joy or disaster? Find out in part 2. And if you're enjoying this powerful African story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the shocking continuation. The story continues.